What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Pretty Boy Wes. Hey, man, we're back with another reaction video. Today, we got the most underrated team of all time. You know, we're talking about the Miami Heat. Hey, this is a little, special video because the NBA Finals is just right around the corner. If you like this, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe. My predictions, I think I'm gonna go with Denver because they beat the Lakers. If y'all didn't know, I'm a LeBron fan. I'm not really a Lakers fan. I'm a LeBron fan. LeBron in Miami, the greatest of all time. But we're not gonna talk about it. I'm not gonna talk about it. But if I had a rock with it, I think I'm gonna go with Denver Nuggets. Probably in 6. I want to say it's gonna go 6. Hopefully it goes 7, but I think Denver at 6 is gonna close it out because Jokic is just too good, just too good. He's on a whole nother level, and I don't think no one can stop him in the paint. Maybe Bam, but time will tell. But like I said, if you're new to the channel, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe. I've been talking too long. Let's hop right into this video.
23 Miami Heat are only the second 8th seeded team in history to reach the NBA Finals. But out of all the Finals teams ever, no roster had 9 undrafted players. However, this is no coincidence because Miami is known for finding gold in overlooked underdogs. This is a story about the Heat culture and the most underrated team in NBA history. In 2023, 126 undrafted players found their place on an NBA roster. But no team leaned on them as much as Miami. Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, and the rest of the overlooked mob scored a league-high 34% of the team's points during the regular season. But the number of undrafted guys on their roster...
Caleb Martin just got him a bag this offseason, man. Do I think Caleb Martin's better than Austin Reeves? No. But do I think Caleb Martin just got him a bag? I did not see this when he was on the Hornets. I did not.
Isn't the only reason why they're the most underrated team ever. Heading into the playoffs, the Heat had the 13th longest championship odds at 150-1. Before the play-in games, it was even worse at 210-1.
Dang.
Miami was a 10-1 underdog in the first round against Milwaukee, and in the conference finals, ESPN gave the Heat a 3% chance of reaching
Shout out
the
my
NBA
boy
Finals.
Kevin Love, man.
Of course, Miami
I love
has a
Kevin
chance,
Love.
but the
Always
Celtics
have.
are and should
Him
be
back
the
in
favorites
the Timberwolves.
Yes, they are.
Even after winning both games in Boston, ESPN gave the Heat just a 50% chance to win the series. And despite Miami giving up a 3-0 lead in the conference finals, they're confident.
Also, another thing, bro, the Celtics, Jaylen Brown, man, you let me down. You let me down big time. You let me down all series. You could not find it. I don't know what was going on with you. I really don't. Jason Tatum, I give you a pass. You rolled your ankle last game. Game 7. I give him a pass. But Jaylen Brown, I don't know, man.
Confidence never wavered. When it was most important, Miami's players
Duncan Robinson, shout out Duncan.
Game
he
7
got
in Boston,
benched
even
for
without
like
the
a year.
injured Tyler Hero and
Came
Victor
back
Oladipo. But the Heat overcame the odds and proved that you should never count them out. This year's Heat team is only the second 8th seed in NBA history to reach the NBA Finals, after the 1999 New York Knicks. Miami's success is even more unbelievable if you know that they ranked last in points scored in the regular season. They were also in the bottom 5 in assists, rebounds, field goal percentage, and dead last in blocked shots. Miami lost the first play-in game versus Atlanta, and their final chance to make the playoffs came down to the second play-in game against Chicago. If someone told you that the team losing in the 4th quarter of the play-in game was going to the finals, you'd call them crazy. And you'd bet $1 million against them, but you'd be wrong, because you should never count out Jimmy Butler, the Miami Heat, and the Heat culture. So what exactly is Heat culture, and why does it matter so much when it comes to winning? Before the start of each season, the Miami Heat gives their players a manual called the Heat Code. The first thing it says is this: we want to be the hardest working, best conditioned, most professional, most unselfish, toughest, nastiest, most disliked, most prepared team in the NBA. Along with this and other motivational quotes are pictures of blood, many pictures of blood. But the Heat Code is not some self-help manual with a bunch of phrases thrown in. The Heat Code is a cultural manifesto. It contains the core core values, identity, and goals of the Miami Heat. The first staple of those values is physical fitness, work ethic, endurance, and stamina. Heat culture is also a winning attitude because the Heat never tank. Losing on purpose is simply not written into the franchise's ultra-competitive DNA.
That's because you got Pat Riley running that, man. Pat Riley, he's just...
The creator of the Heat culture, and the main reason why Miami is considered one of the best organizations in the NBA, is Pat Riley. Pat is a born winner, and in the 50 years he's been involved in the NBA, he won a championship in every decade. As a player, assistant coach, head coach, and team president, they call him the Godfather, and Riley's impact on the NBA is immeasurable. He was the first person to start filming opponents' games, and then spend hours scouting their habits, dissecting the smallest details, and thinking about where to gain an advantage. Riley is also the creator of one of the most potent NBA offenses in the history of the league, the famous Showtime Lakers. On the other hand, he's also the creator of one of the toughest defenses in NBA history, with the New York Knicks from the early 1990s. Riley came to Miami in 1995.
It's my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce you to the new president and head coach of the Miami Heat, Pat Riley.
And immediately laid the foundation for the Heat culture when he brought in Alonzo Mourning from the Hornets. Zoe was a true Riley soldier, a center known for his warrior spirit and the fearsome intensity with which he played every game. Riley also brought in a dress code and established a clear hierarchy in the franchise. But above all else was physical preparation, training, fitness, and strength are the holy trinity of Miami's culture and the foundation upon which success rests. A player isn't worth a penny if he doesn't try.
I know this is debatable. I know we're on the Miami Heat bandwagon. I'm not really, but do I think D Wade had a better career than... He's arguably top 3 shooting guards of all time. And I'm not going to say anything else.
To get himself in optimal shape. The least we can ask of players is to be in great shape. Every morning before training, the players are greeted by the same words written on the blackboard: mouthpiece, knee pads, rib pads. Contact is so prevalent at Heat practices that players were often knocking knees. To avoid injury and to still go as hard as possible, Heat staff realized that they should simply demand all players wear protective gear. The message is, you are preparing yourself for war. Practices should be harder than games. If anyone asks for a break due to fatigue or is caught resting their hands on their knees during practice or a game, they'll be fined $100. The standard training equipment is followed by the process of weighing and measuring body fat every Monday. All players, without exception, must be below 10%. If Heat players miss their target weight, they'll be fined. If they continue to flunk the tests, they'll be suspended. Because some players knew the test was on Monday, they would go to the sauna right before and starve themselves to lose 7 or 8 pounds to make their weight. Then Riley even started to do random weigh-in tests to prevent guys from cheating, and nobody is above the law, not even the biggest superstars. When Dwayne Wade showed up to training camp weighing around 230 pounds, he told Riley that he bulked up. Riley responded, "No, you're fat." This was during Wade's prime, and the players were surprised to hear Riley talk to Wade like that, but it sent the message that everyone would be held accountable, with 0 exceptions. When Shaq joined the Heat in 2004, he measured at 13% body fat. Now, Shaq was the biggest superstar in the game, but even he knew that there was no messing around with Pat Riley. So Shaq was forced to build a 24-hour fitness center near his house to meet the Heat standards. In his last year with the Lakers, he ballooned to almost 400 pounds. But when he got to Miami, he dropped all the way down to 315. Sayings like, "No fake gym rats, no excuses, and always get 1% better" are part of the Heat's mantra. And that's why there are countless examples of players getting into the best shape of their lives when playing for Miami. I feel like I can run for days. I feel like I can just stay out there and continue to play. I don't get tired on defense. I don't get tired coming off screens when the coach calls that play for me, said Wayne Ellington during his tenure with the Heat. In 2008, when Riley decided to retire from coaching, he appointed a coach that was one of the hardest working guys in the organization and the epitome of Heat culture. To the outside world, he was completely anonymous, but Riley knew he was the right man for the job. It was Erik Spoelstra, who at the time became the youngest head coach ever. And out of all the coaches in NBA history, Spoelstra had the most unusual path ever to a head coach chair. Since he he was not an NBA player, he only played 2 seasons for a low-level club in Germany, Spoelstra knew he simply had to work harder than everyone else. As soon as he came to Miami in 1995, his coworkers named him Mr. No Problem, because Spo performed every task flawlessly and without any questions. If Riley needed a compilation of all types of pick-and-roll defense for the next opponent, no problem. Deciphering the signals for actions of opposing coaches, no problem. Compiling a scouting report deep into the night, then carrying the VHS tape to the airport and putting it on a plane so that Riley could have it before the away games, no problem. In 1993, the Heat decided that they needed a video room, so they literally threw things out of a basement and put in a couple of computers. Since there were no windows in the basement, they called it the dungeon. Spoelstra basically lived in the dungeon for 3 years, rarely going home, which is illustrated by the fact that his apartment was broken into 3 times during that time. In 1998, Riley took Eric under his wing and made him an assistant coach. Spoelstra didn't even own a suit that all Heat coaches were required to wear, so Riley loaned him a few of his own. Because he worked harder than everyone else, Spo graduated from the most ordinary trainee scout to the video coordinator, then to advanced scout, then director of scouting and development coach, all the way to the head coach. In 2011, after the Heat lost the NBA Finals to the Mavericks, LeBron came to Riley's office asking for a coaching change because he wasn't yet aware of Spo's greatness. Riley didn't want to hear it, and he had full trust that Spoelstra's work ethic would make the Heat come out on top. And Spo responded the only way he knew how, by locking himself in his office and watching the finals footage a million times. He realized that the team didn't reach their full potential, that they lacked defensive intensity, and that the offense was too stale and too dependent on him calling the actions. To get to the bottom of the problem, Spoelstra turned to Chip Kelly, the celebrated football coach at the University of Oregon. He decided to implement Kelly's spread offense with the Miami Heat.
Chip was freaking horrible in Philly. Oh, I don't like Chip Kelly.
Result was something that the NBA had never seen before. The Heat played without a classic point guard and center, with LeBron and Wade as primary ball handlers. Spo was the first coach to play positionless basketball and switching on defense with small ball lineups.
We got to get tougher down there. It's 2 offensive rebounds. Those are in traffic. We can't give those up.
Oh, Chip Kelly, man. That was a dark time for a Philly fan. Shut up. Shout out to Firebirds, though.
Spoelstra prepared fanatically for each opponent, as if he was still in the dungeon. Many years later, LeBron said that Spoelstra prepares for every game as if it was his last. Miami then won 2 titles and played in 1 more final. But when James returned to Cleveland and Wade and Bosh succumbed to injuries and age, Miami sank to average. Still, they never tanked, and Spo got the most out of every team, and they never won less than 37 games. In 2020, the team made the NBA Finals with a cast of misfits surrounding Jimmy Butler. 3 years later, the Heat added even more misfits around Jimmy, and here they are again in the finals. To the outside world, the 2023 Miami Heat are the biggest underdogs ever to reach the championship series. For the Heat, they always believed in themselves and the Heat culture.
It just says we're a resilient group. We stick together through everything.
After they started the season 2-5, Jimmy said, "We're still going to the championships, and I don't care what nobody says." Everybody thought he was crazy. But unlike any other franchise, the Heat and their players don't shy away from doing the dirty work, which comes to light during the playoffs. In 2015, the NBA started measuring hustle stats. In the 2023 playoffs, Miami leads all postseason teams in deflections with 18 per game. An average NBA team makes 270 passes per game, and no defense is disrupting the passing lanes better than Miami's group of underdogs. They also lead all playoff teams in loose balls recovered, screen assists, and charges drawn, all categories which are based on effort. The majority of Heat's players were undrafted and had to fight their way onto the roster through the G League, which they affectionately call the jungle. And they have this saying in the franchise: if you're from the jungle, no top draft pick should ever get a loose ball over you. That fighting spirit is embodied in every one of the Heat's players, because to be a Heat player, you can't behave any other way. And nobody represents those fighting qualities as much as Udonis Haslem, a team legend and one of the first undrafted players to ever play for the franchise. In 2003, when Haslem first showed up at Heat's training camp, he played with such intensity that Riley and Spoelstra believed that he was going to injure somebody. It was borderline dangerous. We may have to shut this guy down. He's going to hurt people. But this guy is a Miami Heat player. We can't let him out of this gym. Because of his work ethic, UD was always a coach's extension on the court, a role he still serves today, even though he could have retired 7 years ago. When Shaq complained about not getting fouls, Haslam told him, "Shut the f up. You're the biggest motherfucker on the court." Nobody talks to Shaq like this. But because of Haslam's intensity, there's nothing O'Neal could say to him. If somebody would start slacking on the court, Haslam would call them out. Max Strus was undrafted and then cut by the Celtics after he tore his ACL while playing in a G League game.
Dang.
All 29 teams would give up on a borderline NBA player with a torn ACL, but not the Heat, who believed in his grittiness and shot making. And Strus is now a starter on a finals team. The same is true for Gabe Vincent, who tore an ACL in college. While he was struggling to make ends meet in the G League, his college coach offered him a safe job as an assistant coach. But Vincent didn't want to hear about it, and he fought and scrapped to make it in the NBA. So it's no surprise that he found a place in Miami's rotation through the G League. Duncan Robinson was a 24-year-old with no NBA offers after he went undrafted in the 2018 draft. When he worked out for the Heat, Miami's lead scout Chet Kammerer said it was the most incredible shooting workout he'd ever seen. Robinson then went through the usual Heat path for an undrafted player, spending time in the jungle before he became a full-time member of the team. And in 2021, Robinson signed the largest contract in NBA history for an undrafted player, $90 million over 5 years. But maybe the craziest of all Heat's undrafted players is that of Caleb Martin, who went undrafted in 2019 and was later cut by the Hornets. In 2021, with no NBA job, Martin played pickup in North Carolina with J. Cole, a famous rapper and basketball lifer. Cole had some connections with the Heat, and he called up ex-Heat player and current assistant Caron Butler, saying that Martin was killing it, and they had to give him a chance. Martin got invited to training camp, and now he's one of the biggest reasons Miami made the NBA Finals. Martin was the Heat's second-best player in the conference finals versus Boston, averaging 19 points per game with insane shooting efficiency. We're going to give you the same opportunity we're going to give the #1 draft pick. You got to work hard, but we give everybody that confidence. We believe in leadership at all levels. Even Jimmy Butler, who was a late draft pick turned all-star, had a reputation as a locker room cancer and a guy who doesn't get along with anybody. He was seen as a liability for most NBA teams.
Butler and Karl Anthony Towns arguing with one another as they head towards the Minnesota bench.
But Jimmy fit in Miami's environment like a hand to a glove. Butler is one of the hardest workers in the NBA, and when he got to Miami, he never had a problem with anybody. Jimmy and the rest of the rejects formed an infamous breakfast club, their name for early 5 a.m. off-season workouts, and that is Heat culture and what they represent as a franchise. Heat culture isn't about winning, it's about how you win. It's crawling to the finish line if you have to. It's leaving nothing in the tank. When the Heat were down 2-0 in the 2006 NBA Finals, Pat Riley came to his players with a bucket of water and stuck his head in the bucket in front of the whole team. When he finally took his head out of the bucket, Riley said, "If winning means anything to you, it will mean as much as you taking your last breath." From Pat Riley to Spoelstra and all the way down to the last guy on the bench, they're a bunch of resilient, hard-nosed overachievers who never give up. To the rest of the world, the 2023 Heat are the most underrated team to ever reach the finals. But to themselves, it's just another day in the office, another day to fight until the last breath.
Hey, man. Great video. We might have to watch that one. The big three that... NBA's big threes that spilled miserably. We might... Hey, man. If we could get, like... Let's say... I don't know how many likes. Let's say 10 likes. I might have to do that one. Hey, man, but that's a great video. If you're new to the channel, I always say this. Before I wrap it up, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe. It's been your boy, Pretty Boy Wes. I'm out, man. Peace.